Hey people of the VC, it's Andy, a Cloudy and Milder. This video is part Grail in the Mail, part VCLT, and part a little bit of a life story with regard to one of my favourite albums of all time. Those in the know would have probably worked out what album it is already from the title of this video. So Iron Maiden, self-titled, originally from 1981. I first heard this album in the 80s, but it was after I discovered Iron Maiden. When I discovered Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson was the vocalist. So when I first heard Iron Maiden and Killers, which is pretty much at the same time because I had them on both sides of like a C90 cassette tape, if I remember rightly. It didn't sound like Iron Maiden to me, and I was a little taken aback. But over the years, I've really come to love and appreciate those albums, even for the 10-15 years where I wasn't really listening to metal through the sort of 90s and early 2000s. I would still listen to those albums. Iron Maiden and Killers I would listen to on a flight to relax me and put me to sleep, funnily enough. The first physical copy I got of Iron Maiden debut album was the cassette tape, and this was towards the end of the 80s. It probably would have been around 1988 where I picked up a cassette, probably from HMV in Cardiff. And that was the only physical copy I owned of it, probably up until about 5 or 6 years ago when I started getting back into collecting records. I had digital copies I downloaded, did the whole Spotify thing for a while, so I wish I still had the cassette tape. I would love to have started this video by showing that original cassette tape, but I have no idea where it is. I'm pretty sure I haven't got rid of it, but I've moved so many times that there's a selection of cassettes which I would consider to be my kind of the grails of the cassettes that I owned in my youth. There's no way I would have thrown them away. I've still got a bunch of cassettes that I've kept that I haven't thrown away, so why would I have got rid of my favourite ones? But they're in a box somewhere, but I don't have that to show. About 5 or 6 years ago, I got back into collecting records again. I've talked about why in other videos. But one of the first records I wanted to buy, and when I discovered things like Discogs and eBay selling vinyl, was the debut Iron Maiden album. But I was a little bit naive, and I really didn't know too much about all the different pressings and things you could get. So when I bought this, my first copy on vinyl of Iron Maiden, I was delighted to pick it up for such a great price. But then I discovered Discogs and found out that this was a repress. And if you can see it there, you can see this little Fame logo across the top here. So it's still an 80s album, but it's a 1985 repress of Iron Maiden. And what actually triggered me to the fact that I thought this was maybe not what I thought it should be was the fact that it had a barcode on. And in 1980 in the UK we didn't have barcodes. In 85 they were just about creeping in. So this is the FA 41 31211 pressing, and it sounds really, really good. But it's always bugged me that I didn't have a first press. It's a very well done reproduction, obviously still in the 80s. It still has the original logo, but obviously as you can see there, the catalogue number is wrong. I think the original one is EMC 3330. So that's, and my other obsession with picking up vinyl got me into really wanting a first pressing, or at least a first release, a 1980 UK copy of Iron Maiden. But it's not a cheap album to get, and I don't buy expensive albums. it's not a particularly rare album, really. I mean, if you go on Discogs, there are always, a bunch that are being sold, but this album generally goes for around £35 to £40 if it's in a playable condition. So I was hoping I would find it one day, but as the years went on, I started to realise I probably wouldn't. So that got me onto looking at maybe there are some other versions of this I can get into and listen to. And a few years back, they did a load of reissues of their back catalogue and remastered and what have you. So I moved on and I picked up this is the 2014 repress. I believe it's remastered and what have you. Thinking this may well ease the pain. It sounds great. It doesn't sound as loud as the previous pressing I had, but the sound quality is a lot richer and it seems better produced. I think they've done probably a really good job on the repress. But there was something that was a little bit different about this. And what was different was, that I found out later, was, so Phantom of the Opera, on the original UK pressing, also well reproduced on the 85 repress. Phantom of the Opera is 7 minutes 20 seconds long, but on here it's like 7 minutes 5 or 7 minutes 4 or something. And at the end of Phantom of the Opera, there's about a 10-second gap, and then Paul Di'Anno comes in with something like "Tortures me back at your lair," and that's missing from here, and that really surprised me because I presume this would be a true reproduction of the 1980 UK release, and it's not. And apparently that little extra bit that Paul Di'Anno does at the end is only in 2 or 3 pressings: the UK pressing, the Czech pressing, and one other. So this didn't satisfy my thirst at all, as much as I thought it was. But it does sound great, and I thought it would be good to get this so I could almost retire off that other copy and give it a break, so I'm playing something that doesn't have maybe a small amount of surface noise that the other one has through age. I was out digging a few weeks back, and actually before that, I decided I want a decent rip. I've had the rip that I got probably off Napster. I probably got it from back in the day, a long time ago. And it would have been an MP3 that wasn't of the best quality. And now I'm a bit of a, when it comes to digital music, I'm a bit of a snob. I only listen to lossless files, and when I get CDs, I rip them as lossless. And to me, they sound so much better. And I wanted an original copy, and I wanted a much better rip than I had. So I did pick up this original Iron Maiden release on CD. Now I think this is from around 1986-87 as well. The disc is actually right here. It's got that lovely look of an early kind of CD that's just sort of silver, no printing on it, just the Iron Maiden logo. Has this got a year on it? It's just 1982 original sound recordings, which was a couple of years after the album came out, so I don't know. But this does have the additional Paul Di'Anno vocal at the end of Phantom of the Opera. So it was great to pick up a CD copy and have a decent digital copy to listen to on the move. But as I was saying, I was digging a few weeks, probably a couple of months ago now, in my local rack shop, Vinyl Villains, that I've talked about a lot, and I saw this and my heart kind of skipped a beat, and I thought, I found it. And then I saw the price, and the price was £15. Now I get some good deals at Vinyl Villains, but if they're selling what seems to be an original pressing of Iron Maiden for 15 quid, it must be in pretty raw shape. So I picked it up and I had a look at the cover. I asked to look at the record, and yes, there's a bend across here, not too severe. It's not really, it's showing up a little bit there. the cover's shiny, the seam is not necessarily legible on camera, but you know, I can read it. But then the catalogue number didn't match up. Is that going to show? So this is 1A062-07269. So a quick pull out the mobile phone, look on Discogs, and it's a Dutch pressing. Very, very similar label, although this is more of a kind of a brownie look to it. It's not as dark as the Fame pressing and the 2014 reissue that I have. It sounds really good though. It is a 1980s pressing, so I kind of thought that would again quench my thirst for a Maiden OG. It is a Maiden OG, but it's Dutch. And you know what? Phantom of the Opera, it doesn't have that Paul Di'Anno additional bit at the end. So I was still caught between owning an 1980 original, which I had, but not having that true Grail, I guess. And maybe realising that's what made the UK pressing a true Grail, was the fact that it just wasn't the original pressing. So again, happy to pick this up, but it's still left an empty hole in my record soul, shall we say. Now, a few weeks back, I had a similar journey with Killers, their second album. I found a copy at a decent price on eBay that nobody else bid on, that I couldn't believe, and I showed that in a video recently. And I showed it on my Cloudy Milder Facebook page. And one of my regular guys who comments, his name is Ken, he watches a few videos, he watches a few of your channels, but he doesn't have a channel himself, and he doesn't really comment. I don't think he's ever really commented on any of my videos, but he does comment regularly on my Facebook page. So I've talked back and forth with him a few times, and when he saw that I had Killers, he actually said, "Oh, do you know what? I had another copy of that. I could have sent you that." And yeah, I wasn't to know that, and he wasn't to know I was looking. But I made a reply and just said, "Oh well, all I need now is an original of the debut album, and I'll be happy." And he responded after that and said, "Oh, I've got one of those too. I'll send it to you." And that was a real, jaw hit the floor kind of moment. I know on the VC we do, the whole VCLT thing, and it's usually people that make videos sharing, but there's a small select of people who don't make videos and who are still part of the vinyl community that contribute through comments and just enjoying the content that people like us put out. And he just said, I want to send you this album. And as I said, I could not believe it. I was completely speechless at the time, but yeah, very happy. And it actually arrived a couple of weeks back. I've not had too much. Nice, lovely little note there, which I'm not going to read out, but I'm going to keep with the record forever. And as I opened it, I kind of had the heavy metal goosebumps, as Greg the Egg likes to say. And finally, I had a UK pressing EMC 3330 in my hands, and again, it sounds fantastic. There's for its age, there's a few in the quiet bits. There's a few. There's some surface noise, but there's no skips, no scratches, and yeah, my absolute dream come true to have this one. So there's two variations of this apparently. There's one with a black inner sleeve, and I think Ken told me that his other copy had the black inner sleeve. But even on Discogs, if you look up, it says the other version comes with a a record company inner sleeve with the like a catalogue number of 480 on the bottom. So it's the original sleeve, albeit a record store, a record company standard issue. And here we have, you can see, a slightly darker label than the Dutch pressing. And let's say this sounds killer. And Phantom of the Opera absolutely does have Paul Di'Anno's extra little embellishment at the end of it. But I guess, you know, what does that mean for me now? I've got numerous copies of this, which I hadn't intended to get. I always wanted to hold out for this, but as I kept seeing others, I reached out and kind of grabbed. And getting the Dutch copy actually has made me kind of want to perhaps get hold of some other pressings. I would like to get hold of a cassette version again, until such time that I can find my own, if I can see one cheap. I do want to buy the CD remaster. I think it's the 1998, simply because you know, this is No Prayer for the Dying, but the whole set that has the spines that make up Eddie. So I do want to get the for that, just for completeness, but again, just to have, you know, the remaster and the original versions on CD. But you know what, it'd be nice to have a US copy next, so I may start looking for that one. So who knows where this journey's going to end, but for now I've got to the destination, and it's if I see another copy, another pressing, you know what, I probably will pick it up. It's a sickness, isn't it? Thanks for watching.